All right, so let me see here. How do we become the children of light? So, of course, we are the children of light. How does this work? That's what we're going to go over. We're going to start it today. And as we continue going through it, we'll see how this works. Hmm. Yeah. Yep. So, we will look at this here. Obviously, is understanding the whole book. Oh, I put 25, but it's really 26. No worries. At any rate, being the image and likeness of Yahuah. So you're going to see a lot. I put on there. Focus will be the Gan Eden, or the Garden of Eden. So remember, we started earlier. We talking about there's a lot of patterns coming from the garden. So as we go through this whole book, it's still talking about something in the garden, something he wants us to see. If we know the end result is we're trying to get back into the garden, and then we understand what got him out of the garden, that doesn't mean his pattern has changed. In other words, you know how we say, oh, he scratched it, let's start something new. Well, he doesn't make no mistakes, right? So he's going to allow everything to go through. But he said already, the end from the. All right. So at the end of the day, he already knows. So even though all these things are happening, you're going to notice that we're going to go back into it. So we'll be building up to the understanding of the image and likeness of Yahuah. First, we need to see the other images that we should be avoiding as we grow into his image. Okay, does anyone know some other images? Okay. The image. Okay, so we do know there's other images out here, just Yah's image. Okay, all right. I guess before we get started, I'll set up some rules. All right, so the rules: please keep your mic muted except when asking or answering a question. Use the mic to keep to speak. There is a feature in the room where you can raise your hand if you have a question. And all questions must be on the topic. You have 60 seconds to ask or answer a question. If you pass your 60-second window, your mic will be muted for you. These rules are due to the time of the recordings and the lessons. These are live teachings. It must be give the Moreh enough time to complete the lesson. All right. So I said, what are idols? And mind you, I put these idols or images can become your image. Okay, so we know that, but what are they? Someone give me an example. So we know of beings that have it, but what else do you, if you say, hey, there's an image or an idol that I see, how do I know who's your image or your idol? How would I know that? I don't know. Is everybody outside?
I think so.
Yeah.
I believe so.
Everybody?
Well,
I just say that, I'm sorry, what you love most can become your idol,
Okay.
just as a house, a car, or yourself can become your own idol.
Okay. So
That's
real
what you're
quick,
talking about?
a little bit. So we're saying there's some physical things, right? But there's also something else as well. So we know that, okay, idol, like American Idol, people, things like that. But the point is, we're going to look at some examples to see how I know that's your idol. Okay, maybe that'd be a better way we put it.
Yeah, that's
okay. So we're going to see that. Now, and I'm going to use some scripture to do that. But before we do that, so in the Tanakh, the Gentile nations, or when Israel, Yisrael, or Israel does idolatrous behavior, it is portrayed as having eyes but not seeing, having ears but not hearing, and having a heart but not understanding. These depictions are about spiritual matters, not physical organs or perceptions. Whenever the organs of spiritual perceptions were seen not to be functioning, this might be called sensory organ malfunction languages. Okay. So when this language is used, it often refers not just to sin in general, but to one particular kind of sin, which is idol worship, which we'll see in a minute. This can be demonstrated from several passages in the Tanakh. We're going to go over a couple of them today. So let's look at Psalms. We'll use this one first. Now, it says, not unto us, O Yahuah, not unto us, But unto your name give kabod or esteem for your mercy and for your truth's sake. Wherefore, now listen to what it says, just as it says up top, you hear, wherefore should the heathen say, where is now their Elohim? Okay, I don't like the word wherefore, it's really lama there. But at any rate, but our Elohim is in the heavens. He has done whatsoever he has pleased. Their idols are silver and gold, the works of men's hands. They have mouths, but they speak not. Eyes have they, but they see not. They have ears, but they hear not. Nose have they, but they smell not. They have hands, but they handle not. Feet have they, but they walk not. Neither speak they through their throats. So these idols don't have these things, right? Now keep that in mind. It says, but 8 says, they that make them are like unto them. So is everyone that trusts in them. Okay. So, those things can't do certain things. You do it for the thing. Okay. Is everyone with me so far? All right. So we look at some examples here. The end concludes with the thought that those nations that make and worship idols will become like those very idols. All right, so here's an example. This is an example that we're all familiar with. In Shemot, or Exodus 32:7 says, and Yahuah said unto Moses, go get you down, for your people, which you brought out of the land of Mitzrayim, have corrupted themselves. They have turned aside quickly out of the way, which I have commanded them. They have made them a molten calf. Now listen carefully. They made a molten calf, right? Now, and have worshipped it, and have sacrificed thereunto, and said, these be our Elohim, O Yisrael, or Yashrael Israel, which have brought you up out of the land of Mitzrayim. And Yahuah said unto Moses, I have seen this people, and behold, it's stiff-necked people. Now listen carefully. Drop down to verse 25. It says, and when Moshe saw that the people had, and the word there is faruah. Now, King James has, and they were naked, right? If you're going to use the word naked, it wouldn't be that Hebrew word. Technically, is Iram, right? An ayin, a yod, resh, mem. But that's not the word they use. This really means they have broken loose. Okay, so they're not running around naked down to Mount Sinai and things like that. They have broken loose. For Aaron and Aaron had let them, same word, now it says, Pharaoh. They have to break loose to the what? Derision of their enemies. What's a derision? A mockery, right? A jeering, ridicule, things like that of their enemy. All right. Then it says, then Moshe or Moses stood in the gate of the camp and said, who is on Yahuah's side? Come to me. And all the sons of Levi gathered around him. 34 says, but now go, lead the people to the place about which I have spoken to you. Behold, my Malach shall go before you. Nevertheless, in the day when I visit, I will visit their sins upon them. Question, what do you see? No worries. So we'll keep going, and I'll show you. Now I'm going to add this to the equation. Psalms 106:19 is talking about this very scripture. He says, they made a calf in Horeb and worshiped the molten image. Thus they changed their chabod, they changed their esteem into the similitude of an ox that eats grass. They forgot El, their savior, which had done great things in Mitzrayim. So I put, we will read later, in just a minute here, later, that this is what the letter to the Romans talks about. So I'm highlighting this to see. But for right now, what did they do? They changed their esteem into a similitude of an ox. Is everyone with me so far? Now I gotta say, did I see that? Now let's see if you can find it. Can you find it? Okay, no worries. We got it right here. No worries. Musha describes them in a manner that sounds like they are being portrayed as a wild calf or an untrained cow. They made that molten calf, didn't they? All right. Made a golden calf, stiff necked, let loose, quickly turned aside. They had to be gathered in the gate. 26, gather them into the gate. Needed to be led. Remember, the Moloch is leading them. They had to be led where the Moloch takes them. Everyone sees now there's a level of they started operating like a wild animal. Let loose, they're on the camp acting like wild animals, if you are specifically a wild calf. Is everyone with me so far? Okay. All right. All right. So before we define the word for image or idol, I put the description can be seen as using cattle metaphors. Israel or Yashrael, Israel's sin seems to be depicted metaphorically as rebellious cows running wild and needing to be regathered. Israel or Israel was acting as rebellious cows out of control because they are worshiping a cow. All right. So let's look at the definition for the word image / idol. The word there, it's selim, image or idol. A created and formed artifact that is worshipped as or as representing a pagan deity, image, likeness, i.e., that which is a pattern, model, or example of something, phantom, a semblance, fantasy, formerly a shadow of things, etc. Right? So then it says something that has none or little real substance, but a mere form. So you can make something, and then you can worship that thing, and then you start to act like the very thing you worship. Is anyone with me so far? All right. So man was made in Elohim's image, Selim, and likeness, Demut, which is then explained as having dominion over Elohim's creation as vice regent. Now, you remember from the start, he made them after his image, right? His likeness. So he wanted them to operate like he would operate, like how he would have dominion over the earth. Is everyone good so far, right? Something happened, which we'll see later on. Tell him Psalms 8:5-8 is similar, citing man's Elohim's given esteem. It's just the same thing, honor and rule. Elohim's image obviously does not consist of man's body, which was formed from earthly matters, right? So we know that Yah wasn't made from the dirt. Okay, great. But in his spiritual, intellectual, moral likeness to Elohim, from whom his animating breath came. So that thing that he put in you is what he's wanting you to use. The emphasis of the prohibition of the idols is that they are all material created things. Elohim is non-material, the creator. And if you can read that on your own, Deborah 4:15-19, where it talks about they haven't seen a similitude and things like that, right? This spiritual aspect of man has been damaged by the fall and is daily tarnished by sin. So everyone's good. All right, so we can keep going. So Husha or Hosea adds to this picture, echoing the event of the golden calf in Shemot 32. So he says in Hosea 4:16, for Yisrael or Yashrael or Israel slides back as backsliding heifer. Now Yahuah has fed them as a lamb in a large place. Ephraim is joined to idols. Let him alone. So the idea emerging from these two verses is that Israel's stubbornness, like a rebellious calf or sheep, is like an idol worship, which in Hosea often is called the calf worship. So we'll talk more about that later on. And is punished by Elohim through leaving them without a shepherd. Everyone ever heard that they needed a shepherd? Okay, keep that in mind. They needed a shepherd. First generation Israel and Hosea's generation had become as spiritually lifeless as the calf idols that they worship. So I put notice we are the sheep in need of a shepherd or a shepherd pattern. We are likened to something we are to have dominion over, right? So notice that if we didn't have dominion over, we start acting like the thing that we're supposed to have dominion over. Okay, so now they worshiping stars, they're worshiping animals or birds, and actually they start acting like that. They start dressing like it. They want to be like these things. The very thing you're supposed to have dominion over, you want to be them. Is everyone good? No one's never seen that before? Okay. Oh, all right. Just want to check. So now Romans. Remember I said the same thing we saw there in Romans, or in Shemot 32. I said we're going to repeat that in Romans. Romans 1:20 says, because that when they knew Yahuah, they esteemed him not as Yahuah, neither were they thankful, but became vain in their imaginations, and their foolish heart was darkened. Professing themselves to be wise, they became fools. What happened? And changed the esteem, the chabod, of the uncorruptible Yahuah into an image made like to a corruptible man and to a bird and four-footed beast and creeping things. Same thing you saw on one side, you see it on the other side, right? He said, wherefore Yahuah also gave them up to uncleanness through the lust of their own hearts, to dishonor their own bodies between themselves. He said, I'm just tired. Y'all do what y'all want to do. I gave you some instructions. You say you want to do it. You say you love me. Then you just want to keep doing your own thing. So I'm giving you up to do your own thing. So he says, who changed the truth of the Lord into a lie and worship and serve the creature or the creation, if you look that up in the Greek, the creation more than the creator, who is blessed forever. Amen. For this cause, the Lord gave them up unto vile. And the word vile in the Greek means disgrace and reproach, honor, shame. He's gave, okay? So up to vile affections. For even their women did change the natural use into that which is against nature. What are women doing? You don't know what they're doing? Huh? Okay, all right. There must be a lot. They don't even want to talk about it. They said, keep reading. Okay. Verse 27. And likewise, also the men. What are the men doing? Loving Yah. Oh, Yah, you are awesome. No, that's not what's happening? Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Leaving the natural use of the woman. I wonder what that is. Okay. Burned in their lust one towards another. Men with men, working that which is unseemly and receiving in themselves that recompense of their error, which was meat. Yeah, so I like that. That's what I can do. And even as they did not like to retain a Lord in their knowledge, the Lord gave them over to a reprobated mind to do those things which are not convenient. The word in the Greek means something that's not fit or not becoming. He gave them over to do those things. All right. So, huh? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. It can go way back. All right. So Romans affirms that the idol worship is the root sin of all other sins. Okay. Either you're going to believe what Yah said and how he made you and how he told everything to do, or you're not. If not, it's going to turn into sin. Okay. So when one turns from trust in Yahuah to trust in some part of Yahuah's creation, then that heart becomes darkened and all manner of sins follow from this. So I'm going to give you a summary of what we just went over. Okay. Jeremiah says, has a nation changed their Yahuah, which are yet no Yahuah? But my people have changed their esteem for that which does not profit. Okay. They're all saying the same thing. Okay. All right. Here's a summary of it. Idolatry is explained to be exchanging the esteem of the incorruptible Yahuah for an image. I want to leave what Yah says for an image that I want to create, that I like, that I feel is more suitable for me. Okay. The next one is exchanging the truth of the Lord for a lie. What makes it a lie? Something that's contrary to what Yahuah says. So if Yahuah says it, it got to be true. If it doesn't say it or goes against it, it has to be a, all right, great. Worshiping and serving the creature rather than, or the creation rather than the creator. The punishment for malfunction and worshiping the Lord is malfunction in other relationships. So you see, if you see this one worship, if you're not going to do what Yah says, here comes the malfunction in other relationships. This is how this is going to work, which includes, okay, homosexuality, lesbianism, disobedience to parents. Why is disobedience to parents one?
Because that's one of the commandments.
Okay, but think about it. Your father, is not Yahuah Elohim your father? Okay, so it just trickles down. If you're not going to follow this pattern, it becomes disobedience. You change it out, right? So anyway, parents and all kinds of dysfunctional relationships with others. Okay, so when I say all dysfunctional, you got animal, male, female with animals, and also the crazy stuff that's happening. Yeah, what's that? Swinging, and all kinds of other stuff. All right. Yeah. So I had a lot to want to share, but for the sake of time, we'll keep going to the next bullet. All right. Likewise, the judgment, the punishment must fit the crime for not honoring the Lord, and said that their bodies will be dishonored among them. The penalty for not approving to have a Lord in their knowledge, which we'll talk about knowledge in a minute, is that the Lord gave them over to an unapproved mind not approved by Yahuah, or a reprobated mind. Okay, it's not approved by Yah, but you got the Yah told me. You don't know what he told me. I felt it in my spirit. He showed it to me by his spirit. A spirit. Okay. All right. Okay, so in the right image and likeness. So now we see this here. We're going to progress out of those images, and we're going to start talking about where he really wants us to go. We're still going to see some issues on the way, but you can see where we're going, where we're striving to be. So we already know about this here. I won't spend too much time on Bereshit. 126 is, and Elohim said, let us make man in our image after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowls of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. The very thing you're supposed to have dominion over, you're acting like them. Strange thing. 27 says, so Elohim created man in his own image. In the image Elohim created he, him, male and female created he, them. So both need to act like the image that he created. He has order, he has function, he has a way for us to bring dominion on this earth. Okay? 17 says, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, you should not eat of it, for in the day that you eat thereof, you shall surely die. Colossians 3:9 says, well, before I even go there, I want you to think about something. So we are created to function in his image. So I'll put, what is his image, right? So keep that in mind. Then understanding his knowledge, not the tree's knowledge. That's the difference. We're trying to figure out what knowledge is happening here. So not the tree's knowledge. So when you read Colossians 3:9, it says, lie not one to another, seeing that you have put off the old. Now, I want to help you out right now, but I put this later in the lesson. You have put off the old Adam. Okay, you're going to start to see the difference now, how these two are going to come together. The tree, what happened in the garden here. So you're going to take off the old Adam, the old man, okay, with his deeds, and have put on the new man, which is renewed in knowledge after the image of him that created him. So not after the tree of knowledge of good and evil, but after the knowledge of the one that created him. He's going to tell you what is good and what is bad, not the tree. Okay, is everyone good so far? All right, Ephesians 4:23 and 24 says, and be renewed in the spirit of your mind. Okay, so now there's a renewing that has to take place. Then it says, and that you put on the new man, the new Adam, because you got to get rid of the old Adam. Okay, which after Lord is created in righteousness and true set apartness. All right. So Yahuwah wants that new man because in the garden, well, the one that's in the garden, I say he will fulfill the original design, knowing the end from the beginning. So if the first Adam, which we're going to see towards the end of this lesson, before he touched that knowledge of good and evil, that means he was at some form that was pleasing to the Father. Right. And then after what happened with the tree of knowledge of good and evil, be it both male and female, took part of this thing, it changed the form that he wanted. Right. So still remains that form. He's trying to get us back to that form again. Right. Now, mind you, that form, I'll wait. All right, we'll keep going. I figured that. Question? Someone had a question? Okay, I'm ready.
Is the image of your humanity and does the serpent have
Is your mic on?
Okay.
Oh, that's a low mic.
Love you so much. Yahuwah.
Yellow.
Okay. You can just probably come on over here for the sake of time.
Yeah, we get this question.
Okay.
All right. So the question is the image of Yah humanity and does the serpent have a seed of humans?
Okay.
Is the image of Yah humanity and does the serpent have a seed of humans?
Okay. Okay. So for an example, humanity is supposed to conform to his word, not his is humanity versus the standard is his word. So humanity is to come up to his standard. Humanity's standard, they create their own. So humanity can't be the standard and then put Yah's understanding on humanity. Serpent seed, no, serpent's doctrine is something that's contrary to the Father. So sure, he can have a seed operating, but it's based off of the opposite of what Yah wants them to do. That was like, so if you want to go back, maybe, I think it's, wow, that's early in the series. Wow, I couldn't even tell you which one that was. We kind of went over a lot of the seed of the serpent information versus the seed of Yahuwah. So I would encourage you to check that out. All right, according to the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Testament of Levi. All right, so it says 1Q S, which says, by his truth, Elohim shall then purify all human deeds and refine some of humanity so as to extinguish every perverse spirit from the inward parts of the flesh. Okay, so think about what's happening here. By his truth is going to do this here. Shall do what?
Purify
all human deeds. That's what I'm saying. Human deeds and refine some of humanity. Okay, it has to be done by his truth, so as to extinguish every perverse spirit that is in inward parts of the flesh, cleansing from every wicked deed by a chodesh ruach. Like purifying waters, he shall sprinkle each with a spirit of truth, effectual against all abominations of lying and sullying by an unclean spirit. What's sullying? Okay, let me see if I have that on here. Sullying means damage, the purity, defiled, stained, soiled, dirty, muddy, things like that. All right. Thereby he shall give the upright insight unto the knowledge of all the Most High or Elyon, and the wisdom of the Malachim. Remember that we talked about the wisdom that they had? They had the understanding of good and evil. Remember that? Okay. So making wise those following the perfect way. Indeed, Elohim has chosen them for an eternal covenant. and all the esteem or the chabod of Adam or of Adam shall be there alone. Perversity shall be extinct, every fraudulent deed put to shame. Until now, the spirits of truth and perversity has contended within the human heart. That's what's happening now. We're still having this battle in our heart or in our mind, right? And in his priesthood, whoever this priest is, of course, we say who we know who he is, right? The nation shall be multiplied in knowledge. This is the Testament of Levi, multiplied in knowledge on the earth, and they shall be illumined by the favor of Yahuah. But Israel shall be diminished by her ignorance and darkened by her grief. In his priesthood, sin shall cease, and lawless men shall rest from their evil deeds, and righteous men shall find rest in him. And he shall all open the gates of paradise, or Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden. He shall remove the sword that has threatened since Adam. So who's going to do this? Okay, so we know this the Messiah. We know the Mashiach. We read this in Revelation. We're going to have this access to the tree of life. But mind you, that's been removed. He's going to do that. He shall open the gates of paradise. All right. Then he says, and he will grant to the saints to eat of the tree of life. The Ruach HaKodesh shall be upon them. Everyone sees this, right? So, of course, you know this is in Revelations 22:14, but we'll read that later on. As it keeps going, verse 12, it says, and Belial shall be bound by him, and he shall grant to his children the authority to trample on wicked spirits. And Yahuah will rejoice in his children. He will be well pleased by his beloved ones forever. Then Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov will rejoice, and I shall be glad, and all the saints shall be clothed in righteousness. Okay, now this is a stage that we're going to talk about later on today. But Belial is another one, of Belial is basically like another one saying Shaitan, an adversary, all right? And then from there, you see that he's going to grant the children authority to trample upon wicked spirits. So if he's going to be bound, it reminds you of Revelations 21:2. It says, and I saw and Moloch come down from Shamayim or heaven, having the keys of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold of the dragon, the old serpent called the devil, Shaitan, and bound him 1,000 years. Now, once he's bound, you're going to have this power authority to trample over wicked spirits and X, Y, and Z. All right, to the right, I just put on there, just, the Abraham II Yaakov, but I found it interesting, this photo, this was in 320 AD. Oh, I haven't been doing the time of 320 AD. Anyone's familiar with the Constantine? All right, yeah, just an interesting thing. All right, we'll keep going. All right, so a different look at the book of Matthew and Luke. So I know we go over Matthew, Luke, so I want to just change up just a little bit, because remember I said the picture is going to be between what's going on in the garden. All right. So the Septuagint says, this is the book of the generation, the Biblos, Genealogies, of heaven and earth, when they were made in the day in which Yahuah Elohim made the heaven and the earth. So Septuagint has, this is the book of the generations or the genealogy, or right. So I think book is missing in the King James version. However, 5:1 says this is the book of the generations, and in the Masoretic text it has Sefer Toldot Adam, right? Sefer Toldot Adam, which is same thing in the Greek. There's some Biblos, Genealogies, some rendering as genealogy of Adam. In the day that Elohim created man, in the likeness of Elohim made he him. All right, so you're going to notice, and I'll tell you in advance where we're going with this, is you're going to notice that the creation has a generation, just like man has a generation, and you're going to see those two are going to be coming together. All right, so Matthew 1 says, the book of generations of Yahushua HaMashiach, the son of David or David, the son of Abraham. Abraham begat Yitzchak, and Yitzchak begat Yaakov, and Yaakov begat Yehuda, and his brethren. Now, the first one, if you notice, Matthew's 1 and 2, in Matthew's genealogy, it goes into Mashiach, into Abraham. Why is that? Why is that? Because the covenant was made with Abraham. They're the one that's going to be helping to get later on back to the garden. So you're going to see this here. The second one we read in Luke, it says, now when all the people were immersed, and it came to pass that Yahushua also being immersed and praying, the heavens were open, and the Chodesh Ruach descended in a bodily shape like a dove upon him. And a voice came from Shamayim, from heaven, which said, you are my beloved son, in you I am well pleased. Now, jump down in verse 38, it says, which was the son of Enosh. Now, this is the genealogy of the Mashiach, but now Luke's version, right? And he talks about which was born of Shet, which was the son of Adam, which was the son of Eloah. So now you have above it, here's my beloved son. Then you look at the after the genealogy, you see Adam as his son, the son of Elohim as well. You see this one, first Adam, last Adam, or technically last Adam, first Adam in this version here, right? Everyone see what's happening so far. All right, great. So these are the only two places in the Torah where the phrase Biblos Genealogies occurs. These two are to become one in Yahuah. One is upon another, right? Which we'll see as we keep going. So I put Yahushua is being painted with the genealogical brush of Adam. Just as Adam created others in his own likeness according to his image, which you'll read in Genesis 5:3, so would Yahushua. So remember, he was supposed to go out, be fruitful and multiply. That type of what he gave Adam and Hawa, that was supposed to go out to all the nations. Okay, but since there is a corruption that took place, now we're coming, the second or the last Adam, we're going out like him, right? So it's going to be a repeat, but we'll see how that works later. Romans 8:19 says, for the creation waits with eager longing for the reviling of the sons of Elohim. So I put the two are intertwined. That's what I'm saying, creation and mankind. You're going to see they overlap each other. All right, 18, Matthew 1:18 says, now the birth, Genealogies of Yahushua Mashiach was on this wise. When as his mother Miriam was espoused to Joseph, before they came together, she was found with child of the Chodesh Ruach. 20 says, but while he thought on these things, behold, the Malach of Yahuah appeared unto him in a dream, saying, Joseph, you son of Daud or David, or Dawid, fear not to take unto you Miriam, your Isha, your wife, for that which is conceived in her is of the Chodesh Ruach. Now, for the men, I mean, sisters, you guys can relax on this one. I don't know too many guys, when they read verse 20 and they say, but while he thought on these things, what was he thinking about? My Isha is pregnant.
Who did it?
And I'm just pondering on how should I put her away? I don't know too many men. I'm ready to kill that guy. I'm ready to do this. I'm ready. Oh, don't let me see you. You know, all this stuff is happening. But Joseph is a humble brother, a righteous man. All right. I know. Keep that in mind. All right. So anyway, so the Kodesh Ruach conceiving Yahusha is the beginning of a type of new creation. It is likened to the spirit that was mentioned in Bereshit Genesis 1:2, bringing about the creation, right? Yahusha HaMashiach, which was begotten, okay, Genesis and Miriam, and from the Kodesh Ruach. This seems to focus even more on Yahusha as the new Adam, as the beginning of the new creation, not to be confused with a pre-existence, Okay, not to be confused with pre-existence. We are speaking about the flesh. So in Colossians 1:15 says, who is in the image of the invisible Lord, the firstborn of all creation, right? So now this creation is to change all creation. That means one is contingent on the other. We're going to change. This earth is going to change. Everyone understands that they're all working together to be one. All right. So I put this one here, Philippians 2:7-8 says, but made himself of no reputation, and took upon him the form of a servant, and was made into the likeness of men. So that's what I'm saying. It's not about the flesh. This is what he was, and then he came into the flesh a certain way. And then it says, and being found in fashion as a man, or a form as a man, he humbled himself and became obedient unto death, even the death of the stake. Okay? All right, so I hope that helps out a little bit. Back to Matthew's. Now it goes from there to the star. So it says, now when Yahushua was born in Bethlehem of Yehuda, in the days of Hordos, which is Herod, the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem, saying, where is he that is born king of the Yahudims? For we have seen his star in the east and are come to worship him. When they had heard the king, this is verse 9, they departed, and lo, the star which they saw in the east went before them, till it came and stood over where the young child was. When they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceeding great joy. And when they were come into the house, they saw the young child with Miriam, his mother, and fell down and worshipped him. And when they had opened their treasures, they presented unto him gifts, gold and frankincense and myrrh. And the Magi, or the wise men from, this is me, my commentary here. So the Magi, or the wise men from the east, were attracted to the star's light and wanted to come to worship Yahushua. Their presentation of gifts were from their treasures of gold and frankincense. And I put, why is this important? Why is that these little tidbits is important for this? Why do you need to write this? Okay. So before we answer that question, Numbers of Bamidbar 24:17 says, I shall see him, but not now. I shall behold him, but not nigh. There shall come a star out of Jacob or Jacob, and a scepter shall rise out of Israel or Israel, and shall smite the corners of Moab and destroy all the children of Shet. So I added Genesis 6, Genesis 4:9-10 only because it's talking about the same scepter. But here it tells you specifically what tribe it's coming out of. Right? So it says, the scepter shall not depart from Yehuda, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh come, and unto him shall the gathering of the people be. Job talks about the morning, right? The morning stars. This is when the morning stars sang together, and all the sons of Elohim shouted for joy. So, and I read Daniel real quick, and it waxed great even to the host of heaven, and cast down some of the hosts and the stars to the ground and stumbled upon them, which kind of mirrors Revelations 12:4, where it says, his tail swept down a third of the stars of heaven and cast them to the earth, and the dragon stood before the woman whom was about to give birth, so that when she bore her a child, he might devour it. Now, the point here I want you to see a couple of things is these stars. In Matthew 2:9, where it says, and when they had heard the king, and they departed, and lo, the star which they saw in the east went before them till it came and stood over where the young child was. Question is, could these stars be talking about a Melachim? Was that a Melachim they're watching, or was it, an orb that just moved wherever they sent them, and then an orb in the sky said, oh, stop right here? Huh? Okay. So I said there's a lot to go over when breaking down the understanding of stars. These stars had a lot to do with creation. So it's a topic for another time, but I just want to share with you that the reason I'm adding this to it is because, yeah, it's been covered by the Elohim story series. Okay, but I want you to see what the Magi's were doing, or the wise men were doing. All right, so back to the star a little bit. Matthew 21, 1 through 12. I'm just summarizing so you can see where I'm going with it. Remember, 2, 1 through 12, in the narrative of the wise men from the east, they were attracted to the star's light and wanted to come to worship Yahushua. Their gifts were from their treasures of gold and frankincense. This seems to be linked to a couple of scriptures in Yeshayahu or Isaiah. This is why I want to bring this up. So before we read these passages, understand that the star is representing the nation. So you know that Mashiach is considered, he's a star that comes out of the scepter, right? So I want to see the difference, and I put on here, these are some examples right here. Just Jerusalem represents the people, or as an identity of Jerusalem. Jerusalem as a nation, Jerusalem as a place, right? Zion represents the people of Zion. So Zion being a place, but also people called Zion. Yaakov represents the people of Yaakov or Jacob. Ephraim represents the people of Ephraim. So the star represents a leader from Yehudah, right? So the Mashiach is realistically being understood as going to be representing his tribe, if you will, but also the whole tribe as he makes them one. But we'll see that later on. He said, but also represents Yehudah, just like the star representing the star of his children. So remember, Israel's called stars, right? You will be likened to the stars. And Isaiah 63 through 3, 5, and 6 says, and the Goyim, everyone know what Goyim means? The Gentiles or the nations or the heathens, shall come to your light, and kings to the brightness of your rising. Then you shall see and flow together, and your heart shall fear and be enlarged, because the abundance of the sea shall be converted unto you. Sea representing all nations, right? It says, the forces of the Goyim shall come unto you, the multitude of camels shall cover you, and the dromedaries, this is a type of camel, of Midian and of Ephah, all they from Sheba shall come. They shall bring gold and frankincense, and they show forth the praises of Yahuwah. So here's one part that this talks about these nations coming to your feet, right? Now, I'll add 14, where it says, the sons also of them that afflicted you shall come bending unto you. And all they that despise you shall bow themselves down at the sole of your feet, and they shall call you the city of Yahuwah, the Zion of the Chodesh, or the set apart ones of Yisrael or Yisrael. All right. So again, if you're looking at these things here, notice what's happening in Matthew's is mirroring what's happening, what they're doing. Okay. So Mashiach is shown at a smaller scale, but later on you see him representing Israel is going to be done on a bigger scale. So there is an eschatological future. A great light will shine in Israel, and the Goyim, or the nations, will come to our light, and the kings to the brightness of our rising. The wealth of the Goyim will come to Israel, and the Goyim will bring gold and frankincense, and they will come bowing to Israel. That's what you have. Sure. I'm not sure. Who said that? Okay.
Is this when Yahuwah and Ephraim brought back together as one?
Well, they will be. But
But
remember,
they're still separate?
right, they're still separate.
I know they're still separate, but I was thinking when they said it would bring gold and frankincense, I thought they had come back together as
Oh, you mean when all nations bring it? Yeah, when all nations bring it, it will be at that time.
at that time they will be one again.
Right. There'll be a reason for the gold and the silver and things like that as to the building. Now, Mana had a question.
Okay, Moreh, is this also pertaining to Revelations 3? Revelations 3:9 or Revelation 6:9, where I believe Hamashiach Yahusha is basically stating that you will know that you are loved and they will come and worship at your feet in
Yeah.
reference.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right.
To that.
All right, so I put, why are these things important? We'll see in a minute. So I put the Mashiach is representing Israel, and they are one. So Mashiach is representing Israel. The picture you see happening here will be done on a greater scale, just as the example we did some weeks ago concerning the phrase, out of Mitzrayim have I called my son. Everyone's familiar with that, right? So that was said in Matthew chapter 2, verse 15, but it comes from Hosea 11:1. So some people say, well, even though we already talked about it, they're looking at, why is he saying this? And basically, as they are operating, the same thing that happened then, you're going to see these patterns, these cycles happening over and over again. And so here it says, I put on here, there is a lot of parallels between Israel and Yahushua. Matthew 28:18, it says, and Yahushua came and spoke unto them, saying, all power is given to me, heaven and earth. Daniel 7:13 says, and I beheld the night vision, that lo, one coming in the clouds of heaven, the Son of Man, and he came on the Ancient of Days and brought near to him. 14 says, and to him was given the dominion and the honor and the kingdom, and all nations, tribe, language shall serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom shall not be destroyed. Now, notice that, what said in Daniel is also you saw in Genesis, right? They're supposed to have this dominion and power and things like that. Mashiach is saying, hey, all power has been given to him. So he's going to be reversed and going back to where it's supposed to be during the time of Adam. Matthew 24 says, and then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, or Shemayim. Then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great chabod or esteem, which is the same mirroring of Daniel chapter 7, verse 13 and 14. Right? So I hope everyone sees that what the Mashiach is sharing, this is him, and he's fulfilling what was supposed to be originally done in the garden. Okay? All right. Dead Sea Scrolls. Since this is the actual image behind is the actual what's here. So it says, and a spirit from Elohim rested upon him. He fell before the throne. O king, wrath has come to the world and your years. Then it breaks off. And it says, and he will be a ruler over the land. Of course, it breaks off with the brackets, meaning it's broken there. It says, will be subject to him, and all will obey him. Also, his son will be called the Great and be designated by his name. He will be called the Son of El. They will call him the Son of Elion. But like the meters or the stars, while people trample people and nations trample nations, until the people of El arise, then all will have rest from warfare. It says their kingdom will be an eternal kingdom, and all their paths will be righteous. They will judge the land justly, and all nations will make peace. Warfare will cease from the land, and all the nations shall do homage to them. The great El will be their help. He himself will fight for them, putting people into their power, overthrowing them all before them. El's rule will be an eternal rule, and all the depths of the earth are his. Okay, so again, there's a writing here that's before the Brit Kadashah, commonly called the New Testament, comes on the scene, that they have a picture of what's going to happen in the latter days. All right. I think that, because that went, okay. All right, so Mashiach restoring his people back to the original image of Adam. All right, so 1 Corinthians 15:45 says, and so it is written, the first man, Adam, was made a living soul. The last Adam was made a quickening spirit. Howbeit that was not first which is spiritual, but that which is natural, and after that which is spiritual. The first man is of the earth, earthy. The second man is Yahuah from heaven. As is the earthy, such are they also that are earthy, and as is the heavenly, such are they also that are heavenly. And as we have borne the image of the earthy, we shall also bear the image of the heavenly. Now this I say, brethren, the flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of Elohah, neither does corruption inherit incorruption. 54 says, so when the corruptible shall have put on incorruption, and this mortal shall put on immortality, then shall be brought to pass, and the saying that is written, death is swallowed up in victory. All right, so if you look at this here, you see even in Corinthians, it shows writings, he's comparing one Adam to the other Adam, right? Again, so he's understanding even in his day that there has to be a fixing of Adam. All right, so comparing another place in Corinthians 15, where it says, for as in Adam all died. When did they die? The day that they started, yeah, when did they sin? When they eat of that vine? Huh? Okay. 22 says, even so in Mashiach shall all be made alive. 42 says, so also is the resurrection of the dead. It is sown in corruption. 42 says, it is raised in incorruption. 43 says, it is sown in dishonor. It is raised in esteem. It is sown in weakness. It is raised in power. It is sown in a natural body. It is raised a spiritual body. There is a natural body and there is a spiritual body. Now this I say, brethren, that flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of the Lord, neither does corruption inherit incorruption. Mashiach says, then shall the king say unto them on his right hand, come, you blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundations of the world. So we're going to see that there are some stages here that we need to understand, because sometimes we may be thinking that we're going from, let's say, those that are alive when this day happens, that what's going to happen is our bodies are going to change into an incorruptible body. Is that fair to say? Okay. All right. So we'll see something today, and then we'll see how that fares. So Adam's death brings sin, ultimately necessitates its reversal in another Adam. So one Adam, here comes the other one to reverse the first one, who will perform a life-giving act. And just as the earthly corruptible are like to the corrupted of Adam, so also are those who are reborn are in the last Adam. Although the redeemed people have borne the image of the earthy, or the first Adam, they will also bear the image of the heavenly, or the last Adam. So when we read some, I want you to keep this in mind in a couple of slides. This is what happened in the garden caused a physical death. It also caused a mental and spiritual death. What Mashiach is reversing is the mental and spiritual death. We have to show our obedience to Yahuah, and in the end, we will have access to the tree of life and have physical change. This change will be in the form of the first Adam. We will have the same rights he had to the tree of life. So tell me what you're getting from so far. In the second portion here, it says, what happened in the garden caused a physical death, right? But the question I got for you then is, when he made Adam, was Adam designed to live forever and ever and ever?
Yes.
Are we sure?
Well, if he never sinned, he would still have the to live with the Father forever and ever. But
So if we understand it correctly, he made Adam his body from the dirt.
Can I answer? Can I?
Oh, you needed the mic? He said, I need the mic. They're over here hogging the mic. I understand.
I said Ken also because he made Adam in his likeness.
Mhm.
And just like the Malachims, they live forever.
Okay.
So
So
I'm
partially correct. I'll let you go.
gonna say low
Mm-hmm.
because why would there be a tree of life that he had to ban him from if he already was living forever? Plus, on top of that, it says when he said, "Surely you will die," and in Hebrew it translates to "dying ye shall die."
Okay. So the part that the image, a likeness, is forever. The body was not designed that way. The body came from the earth.
Right.
And so if he had taken from the tree of life, then he would have. So what's the point of having him block the tree of life? Right. Like what would be the, in other words, he has an option: knowledge of good and evil, tree of life. Question is, if he didn't need, why would there be a need of a tree of life if he's going to live forever anyway?
I never thought about that.
Hmm?
I never thought about that.
All right. So my point is this. Go ahead.
As soon as you asked the question,
Uh-huh.
I started saying, yeah, why would we need a tree for the healing of the nations? Why would we have to have a river to drink from? Why would we need these things
Mhm.
if the body is going to be incorruptible? That's what I literally just I was putting on my paper.
Mhm.
And I was like, yeah, so yeah.
So I want you to see that Adam's form, we're going back to that form that's going to live as long as the days of tree, but it still dies. Then after that, there's another stage. So I'm saying we want to skip a stage. We're thinking we're going from one to the other. First, I have to get you back to where it was in the garden. And then after that, there's something that comes after that. Is everyone with me so far? Okay. All right. So the fallen image of the first Adam or Adam is ratified through the resurrection of Mashiach, which, as we have seen repeatedly, is a synonymous notion with a new creation. Okay. Adam is a new creation, right? The first Adam also had a confrontation with the enemy in which he lost, right? And consequently suffered death, whereas in 1 Corinthians 15, the last Adam gains victory over his enemies, right? And the ultimate enemy was death. That's the ultimate enemy is death. All right, so keep that in mind. Can you see the stages? A new Adam and then a new you. We're going to see that in just a minute. All right. So Revelation 22:14 says, blessed are they that do his commandments, that they may have right to the tree of life and may enter through the gates into the city. Okay, now you can go and take part in this. Now you can have your days long and you can do all of these things. I wonder if this is the 1,000 years. And I wonder, is this what he's talking about? All right, so we'll keep going. Huh? He's in always you got to turn it on, huh? Oh, there it is.
Yeah, I got you. Okay.
Our
So here's
equipment is
the
breaking
question.
down.
Here's the question
Uh-huh.
that popped in my mind. I said, so if those that are alive during this time period, right?
Mhm.
When does it come to the dead in Mashiach risen?
Mhm.
Right? And then you get they're not subject to the second death.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. That's what's going to come later at the end. Blessed are those that's what I'm saying. They'll come at the end. All right. 1 Corinthians 15:27. And I've got the Septuagint, Psalms 8, 5, and 6. So it says, the Lord has put all things in subjection under his feet. But when it says all things are put in subjection, it is plain that he is expected who put all things in subjection under him. Psalms says in the Septuagint verse says, you made him a little less than Elohim. Now, of course, Masoretic has Elohim as well. You have crowned him with esteem and honor, and you have set him over the works of your hand. And this is where the Septuagint differs a little bit from the Masoretic. You have put all things under his feet. So you see, they both say the same thing. So this is one of the clearest elaboration of Genesis 1:26-28, and all that the Torah, Adam's sin resulting in his toil being in vain, right? So what do you mean being his toil being in vain? Y'all remember? No worries, we'll read in just a minute. But the believer's immovable identification with the last Adam results in a toil not being in vain. So first we'll look at the first one. You remember in 26, he said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, have dominion over fishes, the fishes of the sea, and over the fowls of the air, and over the cattle, and over all earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth. So Elohim created man in his own image. The image of Elohim created he him, male and female created he them. And Elohim blessed them, and Elohim said unto them, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowls of the air, and over every living thing that moves upon the earth. Right? So we see him having this dominion. You see one from in Corinthians where he's going to have all this dominion. It's going to come back again, back to where it was in the garden. So everyone should be fine here. Now, here, remember, he says in Genesis 3:17 and 18 and 19, and he said unto Adam, he said, because you have hearkened unto the voice of your wife, and have eaten of the tree of which I commanded you, saying, you shall not eat of it. Cursed is the ground for your sake, and sorrow shall you eat of it all the days of your life. Thorns and thistles shall it bring forth to you, and you shall eat the herbs of the field. In the sweat of your face shall you eat bread till you return unto the ground, for out of it was you taken, for dust you are, and dust shall you return. Now look what happens in 1 Corinthians 15:58 says, therefore, my beloved brethren, be you steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the works of Yahuah. Here's the works of man, the works of Yahuah, for as much as you know that your labor is not in vain in Yahuah. Okay, so you're going to see there's a reversing that's going to be taking place. All right, so I think this is the part I think I want you all to take note. But nevertheless, death reigned from Adam to Moses, even over them that had not sinned after the similitude of Adam's transgression, who is the figure of him that was to come. Therefore, we are buried with him by immersion into death, that like as Mashiach was raised up from the dead by the kabod, by the esteem of the Father, even so we also shall walk in newness of life. Now, first thing is, first stage. Everyone sees the first stage. Okay, so we understand the transgression of Adam, as he said in previous verse. And then you see over here, he says, we also should walk. Now, mind you, look what happened. Mashiach now, it says, buried with Mashiach. This is talking about our immersion, right? Immersion to death, the like as Mashiach was raised up from the dead by the esteem of the Father. So he's raised up and he's gone. But it says, even so, we also should walk in newness of life. I need to see if you can walk in that newness of life. Okay, stage one. Then it says, for if we have been planted together in likeness of his death, we also be in the likeness of his resurrection. Stage two. So everyone sees that the first part is, okay, I need to see if you're willing to endure. I need to get you back to a stage that I had you originally. And once I get you back to that original stage, then you're going to operate a certain way for a certain amount of time. That's what we talked about last.
Not a couple of days.
No, your days will be long, like the trees, right?
Because some of us can't last a couple of hours.
Well, you got to work with them. Well, if you can make the first stage and you're successful in that stage, the second stage is a reward, right? Now there comes a changing, you're going to take off the incorruptible, this corrupted body, put on incorruptible. You're going to take these things off. That's a second stage, all right? So right now, we are all in the, working in the first stage, right? Right. Mm-hmm. Right. Unless you didn't tell us about the garden and where you ate that tree of life and we were unaware, we haven't gotten there. Right. All right. All right. So we'll keep going here. So the Mashiach is likened to four beings. Adam, right? You see the comparison between him and Adam. Moses, he's compared to Moses. He's also compared to Israel or firstborn. And then the image of Yahuah. All right. So no difference than him being compared to these things is helping us understand how we need to operate as the firstborn, how to be, with the situation with Moses, keeping his instructions, also we see the reversing of Adam, if you will. We see all these things happening. And of course, he gave us a gift. The gift was the Ruach HaKodesh, right? So when we fall short, okay, so we know the Ruach leading guides us all truth. Mashiach's blood, when we fall short, is helping us to be cleansed. We can start all over again. They don't give us the green light to sin willfully, right? Hebrews 10, 25 and 26, right? He doesn't give us that green light. So, I'm just under grace. I'm good to go. I don't need to do anything. I don't need to worry about my neighbor's wife or whatever belongs to my neighbor. I don't need to worry about none of that stuff because I'm under grace. So, because it says if you sin willfully, expect judgment, right? So then you ask yourself, if I sin willfully, that must mean something has to define what sin is. And then, of course, you go to 1 John 3:4, it says sin is transgression of the law. So again, there has to be something concrete to go back to help us understand what went wrong and where we're going. Okay? All right. So we will pick up from here next week. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I had to make sure of that. All right. So any questions?